All Things Mavs.
And they'll reset. Nowitzki again for the lead. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's June 30th. You know what that means. It's the official start of NBA free agency. And right now on the All Things Mavs podcast, I am your host, Jimmy Crowther. We're going through all the latest news and rumors going around the Dallas Mavericks, going around the NBA leading up to free agency, which of course starts at 5 o'clock here in Dallas Central Time and 6 o'clock Eastern Time, whatever time zone you are in or whatever time zone you're listening into. Thank you for tuning into the All Things Mavs podcast. Now, first ever pod I did here, which this is only my third podcast. And again, before I go any further, I want to let you guys know that I am pending approval on Apple Podcast, on Google Podcast, on a bunch of different platforms. It's just pending the approval, and I don't even know what that means or why it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. That is a promise with, I would think, hopefully by the end of Sunday, if not sometime Monday. But we'll find out when that is, and when it happens, I'll let you know. Until then, you can listen right here on Anchor, and you can listen on Spotify. Those are the two places where I've already been approved, and that's what you are probably listening on right now, unless by some stroke of luck overnight, this got approved. Anyway, recording this at about 12:04 a.m. here in Dallas, and I waited this long because I wanted to make sure that any news and rumors that came through, I would have them ready to go on today's podcast. I literally waited until as long as I could just to get it all to you guys, to give you all my opinions on all that stuff. And I'm sure some stuff's going to happen while we're on this podcast. Literally there's stuff flying in right now. If you heard those vibrations, that was my phone, because we're already getting notifications, getting texts, getting calls, all that good stuff. But anyway, on the first podcast I did, let's circle back around to that point, I mentioned that I wanted this to be the most interactive Mavs podcast. And I didn't do a great job of engaging with you guys that last time. I didn't really ask y'all any questions. I kind of just told you everything I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to start this one off with a quick question. Going into free agency, prior to all the news that's come out, what was your expectation? So that's question A. What was your expectation before any news came out? Because mine personally was that we were going to end up with Kemba Walker until as of late. And then I want you to answer part B. What is your expectation now that we are literally the day of NBA free agency for the Mavs? So tweet at me at All Things Mavs, all_things_Mavs, whatever. Y'all know my handle. Go tweet that answer to me. I'll ask you questions also throughout the podcast to keep you engaged, keep you interacting with me here on social media per usual. So let's just start off with all the stuff that went on today, because there was a lot. Of course, this is the day that meetings could be set up. Saturday was, and we're talking about all the meetings could get set up. It started happening, and really, the only things that happened on the Mavs side, there was nothing really, major, any major meetings kind of set up for Dallas, but they did contact Patrick Beverley, and so did the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, those are the only three teams I have heard that have actually had contact with them. There's not been a, official face-to-face meeting set up, but they would at least talk. So here's my expectation. I'll kind of give you my expectations and my hopes for all of it. Expectation and hope is they progress on a deal starting when free agency opens. So once free agency opens, I believe there will be some kind of traction toward an agreement between Patrick Beverley and the Dallas Mavericks. Again, that should be south of $40 million for 3 years. I would expect it to start at around $12 million for specific reasons. Reason number one being Malcolm Brogdon is a free agent. And near the end of the night, it was 10 o'clock, and all of a sudden Mavs Twitter started blowing up, and they were like, and I was like, why have we not heard anything about a qualifying offer being sent to Malcolm Brogdon? Which, of course, if you're entering restricted free agency, you can get the qualifying offer from your team and your team only, and that is what officially makes you a restricted free agent. We hadn't heard that offered to Malcolm Brogdon yet, And then at like 12:01 here in Dallas, or actually it was like closer to 11:30. So 12:30 Eastern time, it officially came out. It was like, yeah, he got the qualifying offer, so he is officially a restricted free agent. So sad, but nothing that we didn't really expect going into it. Turns out the Suns and the Mavericks and a couple other teams, the Bulls, possibly the Pacers, are all teams that could consider giving Brogdon an offer sheet, and that traction really started to kind of take off. Sunday. There's a lot more talk about, or Saturday, excuse me. We are in Sunday now. A lot more talk about it, and it really started to pick up. And here's kind of what needs to happen. It's got to be at least $20 million, right? That's the number that people believe will get Brogdon away from Dallas or Milwaukee. But I believe it has to be at least $22 million. And even that, I still think Milwaukee could match. So what Dallas needs to do is stretch and waive Courtney Lee, and that frees up about $8 million in cap space. That gets the Mavs to $37 million. So what you do is you offer Beverley $12 million, and you give Brogdon $25 million next season. And I can't imagine Milwaukee matches at 25. And if they do, then good for them. Let them have Brogdon, because I don't think I could go anywhere. I don't think I could be comfortable with giving him more than 25. But I'd be happy with that. So that being said, that's kind of just some thoughts and also some stuff on Beverley. They will talk to Beverley tomorrow. A face-to-face meeting hasn't officially been set up, but they will speak with him once free agency opens. Now, another rumor involving another wing that has some connections with Dallas, apparently, and some interest there is Tobias Harris. This came from Brad Townsend, who's been all over all of this stuff all week long, and since last summer. Last summer was the first time I remember personally. I mean he's been covering them for a long time, but breaking news and rumors and stuff really is what I remember from last summer for the first time. He says that the Dallas Mavericks are one of a few teams who are interested in Tobias Harris, but the interesting part was that the only interest that they have in him is at a rate less than the max. So I said on the last podcast that I would be okay giving Tobias Harris a max contract. I wouldn't be ecstatic about it, but I would have been okay with it, right? So would have been something I looked at. So what is a max for Tobias? It's 4 years, $140 million. Of course, Philadelphia can offer him 5 years, $190 million. But I think an offer to Tobias from Dallas would look a lot like, if not exactly like, an offer to Malcolm Brogdon. Give Tobias $25 million, and go give Beverley $12 million. I mean, they are friends. They did play together in Los Angeles. They tweeted at each other. They're interactive. I still think they're close. So maybe he thinks about it. I also don't know what the market is looking like now for Tobias Harris. I talked about this on Chat Sports today. I went live when all of the news started to break with Tom Downey, and we discussed Tobias Harris. And I started thinking, who is giving Tobias Harris a max contract now? Because let's go through the teams real quick, okay? Philadelphia is the number one team. My expectation is that they do give him a max. At the end of the day, I do think they'll end up giving him a max. I just think it'll take them a little while to actually offer that up. And then you think about the Utah Jazz. They were interested in him, but then they got Mike Conley. And now the latest report from, it's not Shams, but it's someone that works with Shams Charania, is that they're looking at offering Bojan Bogdanovic a sizable offer. If they offer Bogdanovic a sizable offer, then Tobias is not going to Utah, right? So that was another team that was reportedly interested. The New York Knicks could be, but the other report with New York is that if they don't get one of their top guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, which doesn't look like they're getting Kyrie now, as he's probably headed to Brooklyn. Actually, I'm not even going to say probably. He's headed to Brooklyn. Does New York want to spend money on a couple lower tier guys, second tier guys like Tobias Harris? I think New York's going to keep the powder dry and not give anyone a max contract, including Tobias Harris. So I think you cross the Knicks off as a potential suitor for Harris that would really offer him a max. I think they would sign him for less than that, but I don't know. The Nets are a team. If they get Kyrie and don't get anybody else, they could be a team. And then after that, it's like Sacramento, maybe, but probably not because they just got Harrison Barnes, right? So I'm starting to look at it. It's like, who's actually giving Tobias Harris a max contract outside of Philadelphia and possibly Brooklyn? That's starting to fade for me. So I think there is a chance the Mavs could end up with Tobias Harris at $25 million. But I haven't decided if I want Tobias Harris or Malcolm Brogdon for $25 million, one over the other. I think I would be, right now, as long as Beverley comes with both of them, I'd be just as ecstatic for both, or for either or. So that's Tobias Harris. That's all the rumors there. The Dallas Mavericks will not offer Harris a max. They're going to bid on him for less than the max with the expectation that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to give him a 5-year max deal. I believe they'll end up with that. That's the expectation there. So, as much as we like the idea, it's not looking likely. The Mavs don't even feel like it's likely. Another thing that came out today, Ryan Brokoff. They passed up. Actually, let's go back to the Tobias Harris thing. Let me know. Tweet at me if you would give Tobias Harris a max contract. Now, that would mean no Beverley, probably, unless they, a lot of things would have to go right. But that probably means no Beverley and really nobody else substantial. So let me know, yes or no, if you would give Tobias a max. But other thing that came out, Ryan Brokoff officially got his contract guaranteed for next year. They just didn't do anything. It only would have saved them $500,000, so not really worth it. So they guarantee his $1.4 million for next season. I hope he gets some playing time, because when he did get playing time, he was pretty good. Knockdown 3-point shooter. That's really what he is, and that's all he needs to be. So, yay, Ryan Brokoff, he's back. Keep going through the list here of Mavs stuff, and there wasn't a whole lot else. Of course, tomorrow or today, as you're listening to this, the Mavericks will finalize a 5-year, $158 million agreement with Kristaps Porzingis, as we all expected, and I am so, so happy. Let's just talk about this real quick, because the whole goal of trading for Porzingis was, that's our big fish, okay? Had he entered free agency as a New York Knick, we would have offered him a max contract anyway. And then we ended up trading for him and getting to court him the entire time so we can just get an agreement on him. Great move by Dallas. And now it looks like it's about to be done once free agency opens on Sunday, 5 o'clock here in Dallas. 5:01, I guess, technically. Outside of that, there weren't a whole lot of other rumors. Nikola Mirotic is going back to Spain, making bank. Apparently, he's getting 6 years, like 70 million euros. So, good for him. You can't knock a guy for wanting to go there, wanting to go back to his hometown. He was a potential target for the Mavs, but also the Jazz were prepared to offer him $45 million over 3 years, which is, starting to. Looking back on it, it's probably a blessing in disguise that he's going back to Spain for the Mavs, so we didn't end up offering that because I don't think he's worth that. In other news, Kemba Walker's going to Boston. Harrison Barnes going to Sacramento. Oh, another one that came out right before I started recording here. Nikola Vucevic getting, it looks like the $100 million for 4 years, 5 years. Let's see. Let me look it up real quick. I don't want to get it wrong. But it's looking like, shout out to Mark Stein, who's breaking down all this stuff. 4 years, $100 million. So he'll get $25 million a year. At the time, once we traded for Porzingis, it looked like he was a target, and then he had a horrible playoff run, and then we started to think a little bit more, and it just didn't make sense. So he's going back to Orlando, likely today. We'll agree on that. Porzingis, 5 years, $158 million. That's a for sure. Klay Thompson to the Warriors, 5 years, $190 million. That's pretty much for sure. Kemba Walker to the Celtics, 4 years, $141 million. That's pretty much for sure. And Kyrie Irving to the Brooklyn Nets. That's basically for sure. And then also Harrison Barnes, 4 years, $88 million. Those are all the things that we can expect to happen on day one of NBA free agency. And outside of that, does anybody know? Does anybody really know what's going to happen? No. So here's what I'm going to do for the rest of this podcast. About 15 minutes in, I gave you all the latest Mavs news and rumors. Ooh, no, I didn't. Pause. Because a Miami Heat beat writer put out a little tweet that really caught some traction. He said, this guy's name is Greg Sylvander, looks like, and he is the Miami Heat beat insider, writer, and podcast co-host at 5 Reasons Sports, and you can follow him at lefty_LEIF. I think that's Lefty Leaf is what we'll call him there. And let's read to you guys this tweet, because you might have missed it, because it kind of flew under the radar. He doesn't have a blue check, but definitely an interesting name, or a little interesting tweet he put out here. He says, as the Heat canvass the league, love that wording, canvass the league for potential third teams to help absorb salary in a Jimmy Butler sign-and trade, I'm told the Dallas Mavericks may be a willing participant if it nets them point guard Goran Dragic. That's right. The guy that's been linked to Dallas for so long. Obviously, Slovenia, buddy with Luka Doncic. No surprise there. A lot of connections back to Dallas. But here's the one thing that has to happen. And I was actually messaging back and forth on Twitter with Max Levy. You can follow him at Max Scouts on Twitter, and we were talking about that. And it was kind of, it's pretty obvious that this deal doesn't get done, or Dallas doesn't jump in this deal if they can't, 1, land Goran, and 2, they can't dump either A, Courtney Lee, B, Tim Hardaway Jr., or C, both. Because without dumping either of them, and I hate to call Tim Hardaway Jr. just dumping the contract, because I do believe he can be a valuable player. It just doesn't live up to the contract. Courtney Lee, on the other hand, is a complete, you just completely dump that. Like, sorry, Courtney Lee. Like, no disrespect, but kind of disrespectful of what I'm saying here. Anyway, this deal only gets done if you can dump one of, if not both of those guys, and then get Dragic back, and he is your probable starting point guard next season. And I kind of went back and forth. Do I want Goran Dragic next year and his lack of defense, but exceptional offense and incredible fit next to Luka Doncic? Or do I want Patrick Beverley at $12 million next year with his incredible defense, lack of offense, but also an incredible fit next to Luka as well? It's definitely a good question, and it's definitely something I haven't made my mind up on. I could sell myself, and I think I could sell you guys on either one of them as our next starting point guard, just depending on how it comes about. Like, if we got Dragic but didn't give anything up, like we didn't give any salary away, and we were just hindered in free agency because we traded for Dragic, then I'd be upset. But if we got Dragic and also dumped Lee and or Hardaway, then I'd be happy. But from a straight up, who do I want more? I'm going to lean Beverly right now because of the money I think he's commanding and the defense ability. But let me know what y'all think on that one. If you'd rather have Patrick Beverly or Goran Dragic next season in Dallas as the starting point guard. But now, because I haven't given you guys any predictions on major players, or, really just my predictions in free agency at all, I'm going to do that. I'm going to run through all the top guys, and I'm going to give you what I hope happens, what I think will happen, and how it all connects to Dallas at the end of the day. So, let's start from the top. What do you guys say? Kawhi Leonard. I hope he goes back to Toronto, and I think he will go back to Toronto. That's my full belief. There's rumors that the Lakers are firmly in the mix. I don't buy it. There's rumors that he's getting recruited by LeBron and AD. I think that's all true. I just don't think it's going to sway him or rock the boat or anything. I do think he'll give serious consideration to the Clippers, but ultimately, I think he goes back to Toronto. That's what I hope happens. And it's better for Dallas. I mean, just put the powerhouses in the Eastern Conference. So Kevin Durant, number 2. Second guy, I'm running through hoops hype here, of course, the top available players this summer. Number 2, Kevin Durant. Look, if Golden State offers a 5-year deal, he's going to go back to Golden State. That is my complete expectation, and apparently they're actually going to. That is what everybody expects around the league, is that they will offer 5 years. So if that happens, I think he goes back to Golden State. I would like for him to go to either Brooklyn or New York because, look, you get as much power out of the East as possible, and I would like for him to go to either one of those teams. I do think New York is a really good chance. I give Golden State the slight edge there. Kyrie Irving, hope and expectation, Brooklyn, and it's going to happen. Like, it's almost a done deal. We kind of already talked about that, so good for him. Number 4, Kemba Walker. Moment of silence for Kemba Walker to Dallas. That's your moment of silence. But here's one thing I want to say about Kemba. First of all, expectation is he goes to Boston because that's what's happening. So, am I upset that he's not coming to Dallas? Yes, I am. But am I that surprised? No, because let's think about this. We always heard that Dallas was interested in Kemba Walker, right? Like, everybody knew that. That was super obvious. They put it out there. There was never any rumor. Nothing was ever said about Kemba Walker being interested in Dallas. So it's a two-way street. Like, every team can show interest in anybody, but it doesn't matter unless there's mutual interest on that side. And there was never a single hint of Kemba Walker even looking at Dallas. So I'm not surprised at this point. And it kind of took me a little bit to think about that, but it's true, so not really worth it. Wow, details of Nikola Mirotic's deal with the EuroLeague Barcelona just came out. 6 years, $79 million. That's a long time. No wonder he didn't stay in the United States. Good for him, securing that bag, though. All right, number 5, Jimmy Butler. Man, I don't know what the heck Jimmy Butler's going to do. I'm going to lean that he stays in Philly for the 5 years. That's kind of what I think right now. My only hope, really, is that he doesn't go to Houston. Even though if he did go to Houston, that means they give up a lot of depth. And I'm really not sure how good that team is. I mean, I know Harden and Butler are incredible, as much as that pains me to say. Chris Paul is useless, too small, always hurt. I don't like Chris Paul at all. Never will, never have, except when he was in New Orleans. Now that he's in Houston, couldn't care less what happens to the guy. I think he'll fizzle out in about 2 years and go hang out with Carmelo Anthony in Lifetime Fitness and ball out on some high schoolers. Congrats, CP3. So anyway, Jimmy Butler, that's all I got on him. D'Angelo Russell, number 6. You know, people want to try to tie him together with the Dallas Mavericks, but there's just not a fit. I think there is. I think there potentially could be. I like it. I like the idea of it. But the Mavs, I don't think love the idea of it. I do think there are a lot of question marks there, and I understand that. But at his age, man, like, I really thought the Mavs would look hard at him, and he's going to be unrestricted because the Brooklyn Nets are going to renounce him so that they can sign one Kyrie Irving. But apparently that just doesn't matter, and he will be a unrestricted free agent. My expectation... Man, I don't know. He's meeting with Minnesota. I hope he doesn't go there because that's another team in the West that just could compete for a playoff spot, which Dallas does not need. So I do not want to see him go to Minnesota. If he does, though, and that's not my expectation. I really don't know. I don't really have an expectation for him. I don't know what's going to happen, but or a prediction, I guess I should say. But if he does go to Minnesota, and if that means Robert Covington needs to get moved, Dallas should be all over it. Dalton Trigg tweeted it at me that he was looking at Robert Covington through his Mavs goggles. Yeah, sign me up. Like, I don't know how we'd make it work, but man, Robert Covington and Patrick Beverley as your offseason additions, like shooting and defense, those two fit the bill 120 million%. Klay Thompson, not going to spend almost any time here. He's going back to Golden State, 5 years. Congrats. I love Klay. Always will cheer for Klay Thompson, friend of Chat Sports, actually, and good for him. He's doing good things there. Chris Middleton, he's going to get the max. He's going to get the 5-year max from Milwaukee. But I did find it interesting when, I believe it was Woj or Stein, it was one of the two powerhouses, said Chris Middleton will return to Milwaukee unless he receives a 5-year offer less than what we thought. And I was like, wait, why is that? Why did that even come up? Like, Is there an idea that he might not? I'd say no. My expectation is 100% he gets a 5-year max from Milwaukee. But if he does not, I would max Chris Middleton out so, like, you wouldn't even be able to blink. Like, you want to talk about a guy that is as close to a match made in heaven for Dallas as possible? It's Chris freaking Middleton. I would die for him in Dallas, man. Even though he's a Texas A&M guy, that's his biggest downside is that he went to Texas A&M. Sorry. But he'll be back in Milwaukee. That's my full prediction there. Tobias Harris. Now, this is where things really, really, really get interesting, especially if you're a Mavs fan. Because I expect him to go back to Philadelphia. That is my prediction, is that he does end up back in Philly. I think they'll end up bringing him and Jimmy Butler back. But, I know there's rumors that they could lose one, if not both of them, but I think Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler are back in Philadelphia. My hope, and this isn't my ultimate hope, but my hope is that he listens to Dallas at $25 million. Dallas calls Tobias Harris up. He says, yo, we got Patrick Beverley locked in at $12 million. He wants to play with you again. Here's $25 million. Come team up. Let's run this thing. Let's be an offensive juggernaut. And you are the option, second option in some scenarios, most likely a third option, but it's better than being a fourth option in Philly. So come on, brother. Come on, Tobias Harris. So prediction, Philadelphia. Hope he listens to Dallas at $25 million, depending on who else they allocate that money to, and we'll get to that in just a minute, so stay tuned. Number 10, it's Kristaps Porzingis actually on this list, which if he were healthy, if Kristaps Porzingis were healthy, I think he'd be in the top 5 of this list personally, but he's not. He wasn't healthy this past season, so he is down at 10, and guess what? He's coming back to Dallas. That's it. That's all the notes. 5 years. Max contract. Kristaps Porzingis, Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic together for like all of eternity. So that's cool. Number 11 is not Mirotic. He's going to Barcelona. Nikola Vucevic. He'll be headed back to Orlando at 4 years, $100 million. Congrats, $25 million per year. They got him. They got their guy back. 12. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's Boogie Cousins. And you could not... I would never put any kind of money down on any kind of prediction for what DeMarcus Cousins is going to do this summer, because that is probably the biggest question mark this summer. I truly have no idea. He could get anywhere from like a mid-level exception to a team giving him like $20 million, and that neither would surprise me. But I'm going to predict he goes to the Lakers. I think the Lakers swing and miss, and they end up with Boogie as their starting center for probably a mid-level. And you know what? Good luck. I don't really have any strong feelings about DeMarcus Cousins one way or the other. I just know he can't stay healthy. I do have strong feelings against him in Dallas. Even if it's day 4 or 5, and we're in free agency, we haven't landed anybody, and he's still out there, I'm not for it even a little bit, personally. Can't do it, won't do it, never going to do it. No thank you. Hard pass on DeMarcus Cousins in Dallas. Next player is a Mavs fan favorite, Julius Randle of Prestonwood Christian Academy in Plano, Texas. Fun fact, that is the high school I went to. I was a freshman when he was a senior, and I've talked to him like twice, so you can basically say we're best friends. But, in other words, Julius, great player. I will always support the idea of him in Dallas. I could never say no if he ended up as a Mavericks option. I just don't know if he is, because every time I've seen a report come out with him and teams interested, I don't see us on the list, which surprises me because I'm high on him in Dallas. I'd be extremely high on him if it were for... It's so tough because he opted out of, $9 million? His career earnings are $13 million. Like, this is the summer he's going to get paid. He averaged 21 and 9, like 21 and 10, or 20 and 10. I mean, the guy's a monster. He isn't a great defensive player. I'll say that. He wasn't very good defensively in New Orleans, but sign me up for Julius Randle at $18 million. Man, $18 million seems high, but I would do it. I would definitely do it if he wanted to come here. He wouldn't be my first option, but he would definitely be a top option for me as a Dallas Maverick. My expectation is that he ends up going to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving because I don't think they'll land a second star, and I think he would be perfect next to Jared Allen. I could also see him going to New York, but I'm going to say my prediction is he goes to Brooklyn. He's not going back to New Orleans. We know that much. 14, another huge question mark here is Al Horford. So Horford follows Zion and Drew Holiday today on Instagram. And everybody flips out. They're like, okay, well, that's where he's going. And then Stein just takes everybody's thoughts and squashes them like a bug and says he's not going to New Orleans. Like they're not that interested, and he's not that interested, and that's not the team. So Horford, New Orleans, nope. Horford to Sacramento, apparently not. They're looking at Dwayne Dedmon. They're looking at other options now. So I don't know what Horford's going to end up in. I would not be surprised if whatever that team was that offered him 112 4 years is not offering that up anymore, and he's going to start falling through the cracks a little bit. That's kind of my prediction, is he comes closer to maybe $90 million. And if that's the case, I mean, sign me up in Dallas. I know I've said that about a million players by now, but like Horford's definitely one guy I would definitely give about that much for. I wouldn't do the 112 million personally. I don't think I could do that. I couldn't stomach it. But I don't have a good prediction. I truly don't. I would love for him to go to the East, because I think if he goes to New Orleans, that is a potential playoff team. If he goes to Sacramento, that is already a potential playoff team, and maybe that pushes them over the edge. So just stay away from the West unless you're coming to Dallas for less than $112 million. Al Horford, that's my advice to you. Bojan Bogdanovic, he could honestly do so many different things, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm still going to predict he goes back to Indiana, but now the Utah Jazz are showing really, really strong interest, which is super interesting to me, and would actually be a great fit. Kind of. Actually, now that I think about it, would it be a great fit? Because, like, Bojan and Joe Ingles, like, they're not the same player, but same position, same size. Like, I don't know if that'd be a good fit. But I think he ends up in Indiana anyway. I think he goes back there. He gets a little overpaid. That's okay. I've seen people throw around him in Dallas. I'd be fine with it, but if we're giving Bojan Bogdanovic more than $15 million, which I think is what it would take, then I'm kind of not so high on it. Brook Lopez. We're getting down into... So I think we dropped off quite a bit, which actually there's a name coming up that should not be this low, but stay tuned. And there's also a name coming up that should not be this high. Brook Lopez, number 16 on Hoops Hype, top... God, they got 200 players on here. Top 200 free agents. I'm going to end this with going down to 200 and see if I can make any predictions with these last guys. So if you don't care about that, I'm saving it for the end. But we're still going through important players, and there's someone I haven't mentioned that you're going to want to stay tuned for. Hint, hint, his name rhymes with Schmalcolm Schmogden. So stay tuned. Brook Lopez, 16. I fully expect him to go back to Milwaukee. I hope he does. I want Milwaukee to run the East next season. I love Giannis Antetokounmpo. Even if he's never a Maverick, I will always cheer for him. He will always be, or for now, he is my favorite non-Maverick. Giannis is, and Brook Lopez complements that team perfectly, so I hope he goes back there, and I think he will. Now, this is a name that shouldn't be this high on the list. And when you hear this name, it's going to make your stomach twist and turn, and it's going to make you probably want to turn this podcast off just because it's of his name, not because of any of my thoughts on him, because I think we share the same thoughts. It's DeAndre Jordan. Really just the guy that got us Kristaps Porzingis. That's the best thing he ever did for Dallas. Great double-double guy. Not a defender that anybody expected him to be. Golly, that was a nightmare, man. Watching him play help defense was like the most pitiful thing in the world. Like, just try, dude. The dude didn't try, even a little. Didn't step up at all. I loved some of the, like, early on, oh my gosh, the first 10 games that he was in Dallas, I was ready to sign him to an extension. I wanted to sign him to a big deal. But it took about 10 more games after that for me to realize, okay, this is not the DeAndre Jordan we signed up for in 2015 or whatever year that was. This is washed up DeAndre Jordan. I think he goes to Houston for the mid-level exception, and yeah, I think it's gonna be Houston, maybe Los Angeles, the Lakers, maybe even yeah, those are the two teams I'd say. Brooklyn is also a great option for him. In all honesty, don't really care where he goes. Thanks for landing us Kristaps Porzingis. You're a real one for that, I guess. Number 18. This is the name that is way too low. Like, let's see how many spots. Okay, so Malcolm Brogdon. This is who we're talking about here. At 18, it's Malcolm Brogdon. I'll give you my predictions and my hopes here in just a minute, but I want to look at how much higher I'd put him. So he's 18 on Hoops Hype list. I'd put him above DeAndre Jordan. I'd put him above Brook Lopez. I'd put him above Julius Randle. So that's at least 3 spots that I'd put him above. I'd put him above Bojan Bogdanovic, so that's 4. So he's about 4 or 5 spots too low in my opinion. I'd put him above DeMarcus Cousins, but I know a lot of people would disagree with me on that. But I would. I really would. So I'd say 5 spots. So he's at 18 right now on this list. Of course, again, let me reiterate. This is not my list. This is Hoops Hype list of top free agents available. Malcolm Brogdon's at 18. I'd put him up to 13, personally. I know he's restricted, and that makes him tougher to get, but that doesn't change the fact that he is a more ready-to-go type guy than some of these players and can really offer a lot more than some of the players that are listed above him, like DeAndre Jordan. That dude's cheeks. He's cheeks. Defensively. Offensively, whatever. So, here's my prediction on Malcolm Brogdon. You ready? I think he's going to be a Dallas Maverick. I truly believe he will be a Dallas Maverick. I'm not going to be surprised if he ends up back in Milwaukee if they match something, but I think there's a very realistic chance that Malcolm Brogdon will be a Dallas Maverick by the end of free agency. I think it's going to take about $25 million, and I want Dallas to pony up the dough. So, I know you just heard I say you want Dallas to pony up the dough. Yeah, I do. Okay, and I know a want is not necessarily a prediction, but I think Dallas shares a lot of the same feelings. I think they're really high on Malcolm Brogdon, and for a little while they thought he was unattainable, but now it's becoming a little bit more likely that he may be attainable. And if he is, we should attain him. Like, besides the injuries, there are almost no downsides to Malcolm Brogdon, if you ask me, besides the fact that he's probably going to get overpaid because he's restricted. But, dude, let's do it. Come on, Dallas. Come on. Give me Malcolm Brogdon. $25 million. That's my prediction. I also won't be surprised when he's back in Milwaukee next season. Sorry. No, just kidding. Not kidding, though. So let's run through a few more of these. Danny Green, I think he goes back to Toronto. JJ Redick back to Philly. Harrison Barnes is going back to Sacramento. That's almost a done deal. Then they got Mirotic. We know what he's doing. Marcus Morris as a name I'd watch out for Dallas if he slips through the cracks, but I think he'll be back in Los Angeles. Or he'll be in Los Angeles because he's a Clutch Sports client, which, dude, what a nightmare would it be to work for Clutch Sports? Except not really, because I bet they pay incredibly well. Jonas Valanciunas, a name I would love for the Mavs to look at, but it's not going to happen. He's going to go back to Memphis on a pretty nice deal, too. He made $16 million this past season, opted out, so he's probably going to get like $20 million, which is kind of nuts. Thaddeus Young, kind of surprised he's at 25. I thought he'd be a little lower than that, but I love Thaddeus Young. He's a great hustle player, great veteran defensive anchor. I think he's gone. I think he's out of Indiana. I just don't know where he goes. I don't have any good predictions there. Actually, him going back to Brooklyn would actually be perfect. Ooh, that would be nice. Jimmy, you should be a GM. Thanks, Jimmy. Rudy Gay. Ooh, wow. I don't know where the heck Rudy Gay is going to go. He had a nice season, though, this past year. 13.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 40% from 3. It's pretty nice. He made $10 million this past season. I don't know what he's going to make this next year. Ricky Rubio. Ooh. Mentioned and connected to Dallas a little more than I think Dallas fans would like, but he's going to the Pacers. That's feels like a done deal. if you ask me. Derrick Rose is going to Detroit in the most random move of the day. But, dude, if Derrick Rose is healthy and Blake Griffin's healthy and Sekou Doumbouya, which, bro, I love Sekou Doumbouya. Like, great draft pick by the Detroit Pistons, number 15 overall. Steal. Mark my words. That was a freaking steal at 15. Yeah, so if he's healthy, it'll be fine. I mean, he's going to get the mid-level at 2 years, I would expect, because Detroit literally has nothing else to offer. 29, Al-Farouq Aminu. I want him back in Dallas. Don't know what kind of money he's going to get, though. He made $7 million this past season. We'll see what he can do this offseason in free agency. Willie Cauley-Stein. At first, I was kind of like, yeah, I'd take him in Dallas. And then I was like, you know what? Kings fans don't even want Willie Cauley-Stein in Sacramento, so I'm out on Willie Cauley-Stein. Enes Kanter. Boston, maybe? Maybe he goes to Boston. I think that makes some sense. Not an option for the Mavs. Terrence Ross is all the way down here at 32. Definitely a guy to keep your eye on if you're a Maverick fan. Wink, wink. Definitely got to keep your eye on. Terry Rozier probably goes to New York on a one-year deal. Elfrid Payton, I don't know. And then 35, it's Patrick Beverley. This is the last name I'm really going to look at here before we go down all the way down to 200s, and I'm going to start to read off some names and see who you do and don't know. 35, though, is Patrick Beverley. I have a lot of confidence that he's going to be a Dallas Maverick. I mean, I am almost ready to buy my Dallas Maverick Patrick Beverley jersey for next season because I truly feel like he's going to be in Dallas for at least the next 3 years. But it's NBA free agency, and literally anything can happen. Literally, like, sources are wrong way too often. So don't be surprised. I won't be surprised if all of a sudden someone comes out and randomly is like the favorite to land him. But I think we are the favorite, we being the Dallas Mavericks, and I think he will be a Dallas Maverick by the end of the season, or by the end of the free agency period. So we're going to scroll all the way down here on Hoops Hype down to, let's see how many down they go down to. They go down to 96 players. So I've taken some off because some guys have, I guess, been picked up or something. I don't really know. I don't really know who they took off because I know they had at least 200 not too long ago. Number 196 on their list is Edmund Sumner. Edmund Sumner is a restricted point guard for the Indiana Pacers. 2.9 points per game, 1.0 rebounds per game. Hoops Hype explains him as a multi-positional ball handler with good defensive effort. I actually know who Edmund Sumner is. Don't know what he's going to do this summer, but he's a restricted free agent for Indiana, so he's probably going back. Man, there's some names down here. 192, they have Mitch Creek, a Dallas Mavericks Summer League legend, cracked the top 200 above Shabazz Muhammad, Alex Poythress, and PJ Dozier. Huh. Good for Mitch Creek. That's a big accomplishment there. At 190, it's Udonis Haslem, throwback to when he almost signed a deal with the Dallas Mavericks, and then he didn't because he went back to wretched Miami. See some other notable names down here. Former Dallas Maverick great Jonathan Motley. Former Dallas Maverick Summer League legend Brandon Paul in at 187. Former almost Dallas Maverick Ty Lawson in at 184. Let's see who else we got down here. Oh, Dallas Maverick legend Zach Randolph in at 179. I think it's time for him to retire, but hey, he had a great time here in Dallas. Wow, there are some names. Ben McLemore, Tyler Zeller, Swaggy P. God, I can't stand Swaggy P after his comments he made on JJ Barea. That dude's trash. If you want to know what those are, tweet at me. If you don't know the JJ Barea comments by Nick Young, it's ridiculous. Still makes me mad, even though it was like 2 years ago. 162 is Cameron Payne, the next Mavs Summer League legend. He's going to be on the Mavericks Summer League team this next year. And I can't believe he's actually on the Summer League team. Quincy Acey at 158, another Dallas Maverick guy who, man, I had such high hopes for him. Never ended up being much for us. Carlisle just didn't play him that often. Jose Calderon, who, of course, helped Dallas in that San Antonio Spurs playoff battle, is down here at 152. Now I'm just kind of looking for former Mavericks that are at the bottom of this list and kind of see. So Kim Birch in at 145 is a restricted free agent for the Orlando Magic. He's a guy I would keep an eye on. If things kind of go south with Maxi Kleber and some other big men in Dallas, I like him. But right above him is Cheick Diallo. And it seems like Cheick Diallo to Dallas is basically a done deal, according to Tim McMahon. He didn't say that, but like he makes it become more and more clear that he would not be surprised if he is in Dallas. Keep scrolling through here. Raymond Felton is entering free agency. He's at 137. Shane Larkin is in at 135. Gosh, Shane Larkin. We all know what he's famous for. Tyson Chandler in at 132 is an unrestricted free agent. He will not be making another trip back to Dallas as much as I know we would all love it. I think he's over getting cut and re-signed by Dallas. Devin Harris. Okay, now that we're talking about this, let's talk about current Mavericks free agents. Because, look, we're 45 minutes in. You guys are already invested, so here I go on current Dallas Mavericks free agents. Devin Harris in at 131. And I don't know how I would feel if we signed Devin Harris again. I love Devin Harris. I always will love Devin Harris. I will always love what he did here in Dallas. But it's time to move on. I'm going to be 100% honest. Even if it's for a minimum contract, like, give that minimum contract to somebody else. It's time, okay? Give the minimum like JJ Barea is going to be back. He's another free agent, which if I had to make a prediction here on JJ Barea, and this is I don't want to say too much, but I have a good feeling JJ Barea could sign a 1+1 type deal, if not a 2-year deal, and retire after that. I think he's got 2 years left in him. That's just my assumption, which, anyway. So current free agents. Devin Harris, time to let him walk. Because, look, we have J.J. Barea, we have Jalen Brunson, we might have Patrick Beverley. And if we're going to give a minimum contract to someone that's a free agent for us, I'd almost rather, that's a guard, I'd almost rather give it to Trey Burke, if I'm being honest. Which is a name that the Mavs fans aren't talking about bringing back, but he had some nice run for us. And he kind of got buried, but that was kind of because we still played Devin Harris some. So, yeah. I love Devin Harris, but I'm not really going to be excited if we bring him back because it's just another roster spot to a 36-year-old guy. Another Maverick free agent. So I'm going to run through the list here, and this is how we're going to wrap up, okay? Kristaps Porzingis, he'll be back. JJ Barea, again, he will be back. I think he's back I think he's playing 2 more years in the league, and I'm very excited for it. Devin Harris, that's the name we just talked about. Don't really, he might be back in a coaching role, which I would be hyped about. Trey Burke, not going to be back, but I think he did play his way into a nice contract. I think he should get at least the mid-level, right? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Dorian Finney-Smith, he's a restricted free agent. I hope he is back. Now, if we have to release his cap hold to go sign someone, not going to be super mad, but I wouldn't be happy about it. I want Dodo back. But also, are we going to be surprised when he goes and joins Dennis Smith Jr. in New York? Because the Smith way never dies. Maxi Kleber, he should be back. I'll be upset if he's not back. I really will. And I'm starting to get worried because it seems like a lot of teams are all of a sudden talking about him. A lot of fan bases are already talking about him. I don't like that. I want Max Kleber back. Bring him back. I don't know what he's going to cost, but sign him for just about whatever he wants. I think it'll be like $6 to $8 million, which he's more than worth that. And then it's Kostas and Daryl Macon. They're on 2 ways, so they will be back in Dallas. Wow. I just talked for 50 straight freaking minutes. That's a lot of Mavs content. So, it's free agency time. Tweet me all your thoughts, opinions, questions, comments, concerns. Tell me what you liked about this podcast. Tell me what you hated about this podcast. Tell me what you want to see the Mavericks do today. 2 freaking day in NBA free agency. Thank you guys, and we'll talk soon.